Welcome back, dear viewers, and you are still watching The Breakfast Show. And in this segment of our program, we will talk about Egypt's keenness to preserve the environment in light of climate change crises, and seeks to develop ways to obtain new and renewable energies for a clean and green future. And in order to achieve the goals of sustainable development and to shed more light on this issue, we are joined over the phone by Dr. Hafez Salmawy, former Managing Director of Egyptian Electric Utility and Consumer Protection Regulatory Agency. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
So, Dr. Hafez, can you talk to us about the importance of Egypt's expansion in establishing the world's largest wind energy farms and transformation to green energy?
This is come in consistency with Egypt's strategy to achieve substantial share of renewable energy in its energy mix. As we know that according to 2035 strategy, it is requested to have 42% of electricity mix come from renewable energy. This target has been extended to 2040, and now we are talking about 70%. 70%, which will be represent around 25% of the total energy mix and 70% of electricity. So the expansion in the renewable energy project is very much needed in order to achieve the target.
Yes. So to what extent do you think Egypt's geographical location is suitable for establishing renewable energy projects?
Actually, Egypt is a very rich country with renewable energy, both solar and wind. I mainly focus on wind because I believe solar, all of us agree about it.
Yes.
It's very well seen to us. But for wind, according to the recent update of the Comprehensive Renewable Energy Master Plan, which is another plan which is developed by NEREA, New and Renewable Energy Authority, to identify sites where renewable energy projects could be available with the site characteristics and many other technical characteristics. This update showed that around 300 gigawatts of wind projects could be built in the western desert of Egypt, which is substantial. Not only that, but the site has the advantage that wind energy usually comes during a night, early daytime, and around the sunset, which for sure could be complemented with the solar energy, so we could have almost like steady supply of electricity all the day around through hybridizing both wind and solar. So it's not just the resource, but also when this resource come, are very much convenient for substantial expansion in renewable energy in Egypt.
Yes. Dr. Hafez, how do you see Egypt's efforts to support the green hydrogen projects?
Actually, Egypt, as all of us know, that several around 16 agreements, MOUs, it's not yet agreement, but out of the 16, 8 has been signed, what we call it framework agreement during the last COP. So this will enable large quantity of hydrogen in Egypt. Actually, Egypt looking for hydrogen first, as Egypt has an advantage to produce, or one of the sites where least or the cheapest hydrogen could be produced in Egypt. Secondly, Europe already has announced that they are planning by 2030, this is part of the Repower EU, to produce 10 million tons of hydrogen from EU renewable energy resources and import another 10 million tons from neighboring countries. So Egypt is looking to this market as a very good potential market for the export of hydrogen, till for sure hydrogen prices start to go down, and then it could be used locally for greening many of Egyptian industries also, and become part of the energy mix of Egypt.
Yes, Dr. Hafez, what is the significance of the participation of the private sector and international investment companies in establishing renewable energy projects?
This is very much important. As we could see, for example, the last deal which was signed during the COP for 10 gigawatts of wind plant between an Emirati company and two Egyptian partners, Egyptian companies. This deal is about $12 billion, which is a quarter trillion Egyptian pound. So we could imagine how much investments are needed, and it's impossible for the public budget to provide such kind of investment. So it's very much important to attract both international and local investment in order to provide necessary expansion in the renewable energy. And this is almost a trend around the world.
So how do you read the recommendations of the COP27 summit, and how can these recommendations put into implementation?
Actually, there is three main, I couldn't say recommendation, but I say announcement by the COP. The most important one for the developing country is the approval for the fund for damages. This is very much important because many of developing world vulnerable countries are very much affected by acute environmental or weather crisis, which is become as a direct result from greenhouse gases and the greenhouse gas. The second two announcement, I believe that it confirms that the international community still stick with the 1.5 degree higher than before the industrial age by the end of this century. And the second one is confirming its commitment for the phase out of coal from power generation, except plants with carbon sequestration methodology. Actually, the developed country, including Europe and the United States, was hoping that a third or another announcement come regarding phasing out of oil and gas. But basically, developing countries was not very much enthusiastic about that, as still oil and gas represents a substantial part of the energy mix, and it might be a little bit challenging. So I believe the point one, which is damages fund, is a very much good achievement for the developing countries, and I believe Egypt played a very important role in facilitating for agreeing upon this, because there was a lot of discussion about this point, and finally an agreement was reached.
So, sir, to what extent the COP27 contributed to secure financing for renewable energy projects?
Actually, the general theme for sure of any COP is to reduce greenhouse gases and their impact on climate change. And according to Paris Agreement, it mentions that renewable energy and energy efficiency are the main pillars by which the world could reach the target for mitigating greenhouse gases. So it's usually a kind of an event where many contracts for developing renewable energy projects are usually being signed. So it's a general trend. Sure, the COP itself, it's not a place for cutting deals. A COP is a place where parties are being negotiated for that. But the general theme and the momentum created by the COP usually encourage all international companies to show that how much they are contributing in achieving the main target for this. So this is why we have seen that the 10 gigawatt deal, which has been MOU, which has been signed, another 3 gigawatt has been signed also with Egypt, 1.1 gigawatt, which is a kind of a joint agreement between the Egyptian Sovereign Fund and one of the major Saudi company. In addition, 8 out of the MOUs for hydrogen production has been a framework agreements has been signed. So this is a good event to announce and publicize and to confirm to the world that all parties are working toward achieving the target of the COP.
Yes. So, sir, what are the challenges that still face Egypt in its transition to green and renewable energy?
Yes, challenges, there is some internal and external challenges for sure. For internal challenges, we need to enhance our administrative, licensing, solicitation activities. Also land enabling, getting permissions for land, equipping land with necessary infrastructure at the proper time. So we need to be ready at proper time for the development of projects. Also grid extension and expansion to absorb the produced energy and develop our methodology for operating our power system to be more suitable for this kind of variable power supply sources like wind and solar, which is a challenge around all the world. So we need to build capacity as well as to develop our experience in doing this. This is from an internal point of view. For sure, external on the external side, international crisis might have an impact, or any financial crisis like what we have nowadays around the world is basically might have an impact on the flow of investment. So we hope that both, what in our hand, which is internal, I think we are working well on improving it.
Yes. So, sir, also, how can the national strategy 2050, which aims to achieve sustainable economic growth with low emissions in various sectors, be supported?
This is the climate change strategy, which was announced last June, which states that Egypt's effort in order to achieve the target for climate change by 2050. Actually, as we know, several sectors are responsible for emitting CO2, specifically industrial as well as transportation sector. I will start with transportation sector as Egypt now is doing substantial electrification projects for its railway sector. Also, there is a very strong boost, not only in Egypt but around the world, to switch to electric vehicles. So both will help Egypt very much to reduce the CO2 emission coming from its transportation sector. Regarding industrial sectors, it's very much believed that very active energy efficiency program is very much needed for our industrial sector. It's not only to mitigate CO2 emission, but also to improve the competitiveness of the Egyptian industry. Several projects are going now in the industrial sector to improve its energy efficiency, yet more project and more acceleration is very much needed, because if we haven't do that, we couldn't achieve our target.
So, sir, finally, can you give us your insight on the importance of cooperating with the African countries and support them in the field of renewable energy projects?
I think cooperation between Egypt and African countries is going very well. Specifically, there is an international initiative which is called ARI, which is an African Renewable Energy Initiative, which is targeting to have 300 gigawatts of renewable energy in Africa by 2030. Actually, Africa has been endowed with substantial renewable energy resources, and Egypt already has an experience. And one of the good things, as I mentioned before, that many Egyptian companies are currently investing in Egypt in renewable energy projects, and this will build a kind of credit for these companies to reinvest and provide support to our African countries in developing their renewable energy projects. And one of these samples is the dam of Julius Nyerere in Tanzania, where two large Egyptian companies are now building on almost finished this dam. So I believe Egypt could provide both technical support as well as technical know-how in developing renewable energy projects in Africa, either directly Egypt with other African countries or through tripartite kind of relation with other international body where Egypt could use its credit to facilitate the flow for investment to other African countries.
Yes, finally, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Hafez Al-Salmawy, former Managing Director of Egyptian Electric Utility and Consumer Protection Regulatory Agency. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And viewers, short break, and we'll be back with our second segment for today, so stay tuned.